Welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gents. I have another interview for us today. I think I say the same freaking thing on every interview. I'm like, I'm so stoked for this conversation. But I really am. Erin has actually been one of the wish list people for probably a year and a half now. Oh yeah. Ever since like you started podcasting and I kind of tuned into yours, I was like, man, I'd love to have a conversation with
that's
her.
awesome. I'm so excited.
I'm always like in the sidelines watching you, and I'm like, what is she doing today? What is she doing? I'm the creeper, like looking
We're
over
creeping on each other.
I probably should just let you know that straight up front. Like I'm
All
always
right.
creeping.
It's mutual.
That's awesome. So I met Erin online, actually. I think it's maybe been like 2 or 3 years ago through like a mutual mastermind. Heather Chauvin's Mom is in Control. And then I think Heather said something along the lines of like, you would really get along with Erin, just message her. And I think I messaged you just for accountability or to bounce ideas off of. I don't even remember how it went. And I've just kind of been like hooked on the side, and we haven't even met each other in person. So I can't wait for that
So
day.
many of my best friends I've never met in person.
After this
my best friend.
shit,
yes.
Seriously, I need to make a trip out there because you're in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes. Yeah. We're still on lockdown here, by the way. It's been
We
fun.
are too. They're starting to open things back up, and honestly, it feels weird. Not that like I've been going places. I mean, I don't fucking really go anywhere anyways.
I don't have anywhere to go right now.
Like, well, you know, my runs now, or my out of the house, is going to the post office to pick up my mail for my business, and then I will do grocery pickups, and then other than that, sometimes I just drive around.
I know, the window's open. I'm free.
Oh goodness. So all right, so tell us who you are for listeners. I know I kind of did like a really brief intro there, but kind of tell us who you are and what you're up to.
Oh gosh, it's like the loaded question, isn't it? I'm always like, my favorite color is yellow.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah,
like,
I still don't know what my favorite movie is. So don't ask me. I just have no idea.
Depends on the day, right?
It does. Absolutely does. Well, I'm Erin. So my name's Erin Miller, but my business is Erin Joyce Co. And someone actually recently asked me like, well, where does Erin Joyce come from? Joyce is just my middle name is all. And I love my husband and don't anticipate not being with him. I just really like the first and middle name for a business. It's as simple as that. So I am actually a certified counselor, specifically in school counseling. And I got my dream job out of grad school. And then, you know, the little voice in your head, I'm hoping I'm not the only one. The voice
all day long.
Right. Okay. So I'm doing this job and I'm doing it really well. You know, my boss, my principal is like, you're just really good at this. I'm like, thank you. And then the voice is like, you are really good at it, but you're not meant to do this. And it's like, whoa, voice, you know, like I don't understand. Like I've worked 8 years to get this degree and I have the job I want and it's perfect. Why would I not be meant to do this? So I told it to be quiet, like most people, you know, like just go away, shut up. And then I became a mom. And as we all know, that's like a shitstorm, opening the can of worms for everything that you didn't even know you had inside of you. All of the wounds come out. So I just kind of reached a point of, it was a really difficult decision, but did choose to leave. And at the same time, my love of photography was blossoming because I'd never been able to really hone in on that passion. It's always been a passion of mine. I did it through high school. But I never had time to really play with it because I was always in school and like always writing papers and doing research and all that. So it was one of those organic things. As I was home with my daughter, my new mommy friends were like, hey, you take good pictures, take pictures of my kids, please, you know? So I did, and it turned into like, well, I guess I need to create a business so I can legally accept money from these people. Right? Like, what's the right way to do this? And it turned into becoming a wedding photographer. And then I became a mom again. My kids are 18 months apart. And then I really just started to lose my footing. I just became that mom who was doing too much, trying to prove something through my like masculine energy hustle. of
Mm-hmm.
look how much money I can make, even though I left my job, and look how much I can do, and look at my cape, and, you know, give me the badge of honor because I forgot to eat the past 5 days because I'm so busy. And my body was like, well, fuck that noise.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna tell you to stop. So I ended up completely breaking down, physically and emotionally. I just fell into like massive anxiety. And, there's a whole story and journey there. I actually have a book coming out in September.
I
That
saw that.
I'm so
I can't
excited.
wait.
Yeah, I'm so excited, but it's all there. And my story isn't profound. Like I'm not, you know, you mentioned how we met through Heather, and she has this profound, amazing story of how she beat cancer. And that was
Mm-hmm.
her body breaking down. Like I don't have this like, hey, I beat cancer story. Mine's just like this very typical. And I think so many people hit that. So many mothers, like I would say a very like in the 90th percentile, people are hitting this wall as moms.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I want to share this story, because I don't want people to think that you're exempt when you become a mother, that you're not going to fall into this like black hole of overwhelm and possibly deal with anxiety. So it can happen to anybody. So I moved through that. It took me a good 4 years to figure all of that out. And as I was moving through that journey, part of my journey was where I connected with you, and really started to learn more about connecting in with my own intuition, understanding how to schedule better, understanding my 28-day cycle as a woman, to use that to guide me through my business. And I think my favorite thing that I've learned is just how to say no. Like I was just such a people pleaser and taking on so much. And I've learned how to say like, no, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do that anymore, or I can add this into my life, or do this, or be this. And I don't give a shit if someone wants to judge me, because those who matter don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I've kind of reached this point that now I have this fused business, and that's why I shifted from Erin Joyce Photography to Erin Joyce Co. Because while I'm still doing photography, I also utilize photography to really bridge the gap between, I feel like whatever there is existentially, into like what the meaning of life actually is. So I love to document my life as a mother and really learn through taking pictures and share that with the world. And then also have this coaching business because I'm just passionate about all the stuff that I've gathered over the past 4 years. People need to know. So I want to like pull it together and hand it to people and say, you can do this too. It takes work. It's not a pill. It's not a switch. But all the tools are out there and I have them to give. So
I love that, because I know that I messaged you, gosh, I don't know, maybe a week or two ago, and I love this. I don't know if you would call it like a rebranding,
yeah.
of just how you've tied everything in together so beautifully. And I know I've asked you about this because I'm like, how do you do it? Because I feel like I mean I don't feel like, I know I have like, you know, 4 or 5 things that I offer,
Mhm.
but right now I feel like they're kind of like this one's over here and then this one's over
Right. That's
here,
how I was
but
feeling.
they do tie together, but I'm
Right.
not that magical like person to tie them together. So maybe that's my next step. And I think that you and who's helped you do that have done that beautifully. But it is because I think it also kind of ties in that like we can be more than one thing. Like we're not just moms, we're not just business owners, we're not just
Exactly.
women. It's everything's multifaceted.
Hmm.
And so it's like, well, I can offer this and offer this, and they're related because of this.
Exactly. Yeah.
So so how did you even start? Okay, so the thing that I want to talk about, I guess, is like the energy work side of things.
Absolutely. Go for it.
I find this stuff just so fascinating, and how it kind of
Mhm.
like intertwines into like everything that we do, how we show up in our life. And you mentioned the 28-day cycle. That's something that
Mhm.
I've maybe mine might be a little bit different. But in terms of like managing your energy, where you're at in your cycle, and what foods to eat and what exercises to do, and like some days you give yourself grace and some days you don't. So
Mhm.
is that kind of what you mean by 28-day cycle?
Yes, yeah. So I continue to learn more and more about it, and it
Mm-hmm.
actually, to be honest, it really pisses me off that someone didn't teach this to me before I was 36. Like what the fuck? You know, like you get your
Yeah.
period as a 13-year-old and people are like, "Good luck." They'll throw a tampon at you and you spend like hours like, what am I doing? Like what
God,
is
I
this?
was.
Oh
I
my
was so
God.
embarrassed when I got mine. Like
It's
I was
so,
so
yeah.
embarrassed. Like it was so like I was like 11, I think, and I told
Yeah.
my mom, and I was like, "Mom, I think I had my period." And you know, obviously being like 11 or 12 years old, you're like, "What the fuck is happening
I
to
know.
me?"
I know.
But then she didn't believe me, and she's like, "Show me your underwear," and I was like,
Oh
"Ah!" So I was
no.
like
It's so
traumatized. Yeah, and then like
sad.
it's always like hush hush, and then you
Yes.
know, oh yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I
And
agree.
it's just this thing, and it turns into this thing that it happens once a month, and it's horrifying, and no one wants to talk about it. And
Hmm.
really, the 28-day cycle of a woman is just this amazing part of our bodies. And I
Hmm.
think what's really, so the hardest part about it is that our society functions in a 24-hour cycle, which is the man's cycle.
Yep.
So I talk a lot about the elements of the day too. The Chinese elements that we have. My favorite is water time, which is typically the time in the afternoon that we all just want to like lay down and die. But
Okay, so that's what I was
the,
gonna ask, if it's like earth, air, fire,
yeah,
water.
yeah.
Is
So
there
it's
do you do the four elements, or is there a fifth?
the Chinese elements. So there's earth, wood, metal,
Oh,
fire,
okay, okay,
water, but there's
okay, okay.
fire time 2 times a day, which is great because that's when you want to get your work done. So, but we have it's designed around the man's cycle. So they
Hmm.
wake up, which is a 4-phase cycle, just like our 28-day cycle is 4 phases. Um, but they wake up and they're kind of like ready. That's your follicular phase. So this is
Hmm.
the phase like right after our period, where it's, you start to, the time of the month where you're like, oh my God, I have so many ideas. I don't even know what to do. This is fantastic. I'm amazing.
Yes.
And you're just lit up with so much. And so that's the morning for the men. Like they wake up, they spring out of bed and they're like, I'm going to get this day. I'm going to bring home the bread. And then they go out. So the ovulatory phase is when your body's getting ready to release that egg. And that's when you have a ton of energy typically. Now, all women are a little different. That's why it's important to know your body. But that's when the men go out in the middle of the day. That's the 9 to 5 where it's like, let's get our shit done. Let's do this. And they have all that energy. And then by the evening, that's that luteal phase. That's when you start to become tired. This is the hardest phase for me. This is where I think that I suck at my job. It's where I feel like I need to close business, that I failed as a mother. I'm a terrible wife. I'm too tired
Hmm.
to lift my arms. What's wrong with me? Phase. So so once you understand like you're hitting that phase, and then you're not like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just in my luteal phase. Like, let's just go take a nap. We'll get out of this. And then at night, when the menstruation phase, is that week where obviously like this is where you want to just be laying down. It's where you want to cuddle up, you want to read a book. And even though our period can last for a good 5 days, give or take, typically it's only a good 3 days that you're in this energetic space of wanting to just be still. And then that's the nighttime for the guys. That's when they're sleeping. So we have this 24-hour cycle throughout the day that our bodies aren't aligned with. So we're, as women who, if you're in your menstruation phase, but you have this huge project due, you can't say to your boss, like, hey, you know what? I'm in my menstruation phase. So I'm just going to hand this in 3 days approximately. Like we're not able to do that. But when we understand our bodies, we can recognize. So for me, for instance, with being a wedding photographer, I can't tell someone like, hey, you know how you booked me a year and a half ago for your wedding day? Turns out I'm at the end of my luteal phase and I literally can't deal with life. I'm not going to be able to shoot your wedding. Like that's not possible. But what I do know that I can do, and this is where it's so important to understand our energy, is that I know that this is where I am in my cycle. Because I track this, I know how I'm going to feel, and I can prepare myself physically, mentally, emotionally to go into this wedding. So I'm going to eat really consciously. I'm going to be meditating extra. I'm going to be sleeping extra. I'm going to be delegating a whole lot more off to my husband because I need to preserve my energy to shoot this wedding all day long. And then I'm also going to take off the next day so I can sleep in, take a bath, and not be taking on all of this stuff. So I'm not going to be going to a barbecue. I'm not going to be going to the kid's birthday party because I know that if I do, that's where I'm going to start to burn out because my body energetically is not prepared to be doing that much.
Hmm.
So having all of that awareness is like such an incredible compass to understand all of that.
I love that. And so how does that tie into the Chinese things? Because like I'm more familiar with, and maybe this is the same thing, like Chinese medicine and how like certain colors represent certain foods and
Yeah.
certain functions in the body, things like that. And I think the elements tie into that, but it's probably been 3 or 4 years since I've kind of read up on that. So how does that?
So the color stuff, that actually reminds me of, is your video on? I'm like playing with my armpits. Do you see that?
Oh, it is, but I no, you're fine. It is, but
Let me pick my nose too, so you can.
I'm in my truck, like wrapped up in a blankie, like hiding
I
from the
forgot
world.
where I am. You don't
You're
care.
okay. My husband the
Whatever.
other day was on a web call or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, thank God I had my video turned off. I just went and took a piss and forgot." I was like, "Well,
This
hopefully your
Zoom life
sound
is
was
so
turned off."
humbling.
Oh
Oh
shit,
God.
too funny.
So the colors of foods actually reminds me very much of like chakra
Mm-hmm.
stuff. As far as the Chinese elements of the day, and that's not to say like I'm not an expert in it. I've been taught about it through a coach, and it resonated very much with me. So I kind of, the phrase chew the fruit and spit out the seeds. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things that was really good fruit for me. So I'm just chewing it and taking it in, but I haven't like expanded to understand it on a level of being an expertise. However, the way I use it, all of our bodies and our energies are different. So again, it's like we're all individualized. Like this, it's not one of those things. It's like some people have a lot of energy during water time. I don't. So I love to like sit and cuddle my kids and watch
See,
TV.
water time makes me feel like I need to be like relaxing, because that's like
Yes.
very calming. Like I think of like
Yeah.
the color blue and like ocean waves, and I think I could just naturally be like a lizard and soak up the sun next to the
Yes.
water. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think we all naturally, and that's what's amazing is that we've become a society that's so against listening to our own intuition and what our bodies need. And that's
Yeah.
why we're becoming so anxiety ridden and so overwhelmed. It's really not that complicated if we just sit still. I saw a funny meme that in the quarantine, it was something like, it's your time to sit still and really tap into your feelings, but never mind, I'm going to teach myself how to make bread from scratch.
So
It's
I do both.
it's like I can see both things. But it's true, like that. Like we're so scared to kind of sit and feel our feelings, and like
Yeah.
because it's uncomfortable if we're not used to it. But it's also so enlightening. It's like, oh shit, this is what I need. I need to make
Mm-hmm.
bread, and then you go make the bread. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. So the fire time is from 11 to 3 in the day, AM to PM. And this is a great time to get all of your work done. Like that's when you're going to feel like I'm so productive during that time. The 9 or 7 to 11 in the morning? I think it's 9 to 11 actually, that this is your earth time. So this is actually when this is kind of like the luteal phase where you're getting all these ideas and brainstorming. It's a great time to do like social media prep, answering emails, any creation. I actually like to exercise during this time because it's even like that connection to the earth feeling. And then there's the water time after fire time. It's like that 3-4 o'clock to 7. It's almost like the calm before the storm, because then you hit fire time again at 7 to 11 at night.
And that's when chaos with bath time
Yeah,
and getting people
exactly.
ready and
And it's like you
everybody's
get that extra
screaming.
burst of energy. It's like that second wind to get
Yeah.
through the hell with kids. And then you can also, I just use it as like a backup to know that if I can't get a couple work things done during fire time during the day, then I know I can throw it in. Usually 7 to 11 is my like that energetic time management time of like tying up the loose ends. What do I need to do tomorrow? Do I need to like reply to one more email or two? All of that. And then, yeah. So I love to kind of break up my day. So we don't need a 9 to 5 really. That's why we burn out. We can get all our
No,
shit done 11 to 3.
seriously though, I totally agree with that, because I used to work the quote 9 to 5, except for really
Right.
it was like 7 to 7 or 24
Yeah,
hours, however you
exactly.
want to look
Yeah.
at it. Like it just never it
Never
I
ended.
was there 9 to 5 maybe, but it just never really ended. But like now I have, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, like I have strategic times that I work throughout the day, and I literally work like a third, maybe even
Exactly.
a quarter of what I did before. I feel better now. I'm healthier. I hang out with my
Yep.
kids more, and I make more freaking money. Like, how does
Yep.
that?
I know.
It's just, I
Mm-hmm.
can't, I still, I mean, I can wrap my head around it, but when you sit and think about it, it's like, holy shit, like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Yeah. Because we've been raised to believe that the only way you make more money is to work more.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like joke yourself into it. You're like, I work 9 to 5, even though I sat at my desk and like picked my nose and watched YouTube and talked to my coworkers the whole time, but I'll make more money,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. Nope. I
Yeah.
get probably an 8-hour workday done in about 4 hours because you're just more intentional with your time.
Yeah.
And I do like that fire time. It makes perfect sense because even like the exercising, like I used to be like that 5 a.m. exerciser, except for it never really felt.
I can't, my body's like, no.
See, and that's me. Like, I'm like, I have to fucking do this. Like, what's wrong with me kind of thing. And so like,
Right.
I'll do it and I feel fine afterwards. But like to
Yeah.
get myself to do it, it's like, it's so fucking hard. But then like
Yeah.
come 9 or 10 o'clock, I'm like, I want to be outside. I want to be moving. Like I want to
Yeah.
do things. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
This makes
That
perfect
early,
sense.
I think that's metal time. I think it's like 3 a.m., that 3 a.m. to the next time, the earth time. See, I'm no expert, but
No,
that
you're
morning
fine.
chunk is a really great time to do your meditative stuff. Like that's when you're,
That's all I want to do too. That makes
yeah,
perfect sense.
yeah, that time where you just want to like sit in silence and meditate and journal and be very connected to like the crown chakras, the spirituality
Mm.
part of yourself is a great time. That's a great time to like figure out what you want to manifest too. Like if you want to do
Yeah.
EFT tapping or, you
God,
know,
we can talk about tapping too.
mm.
I don't think I've ever talked about tapping on this, and that's something
Oh,
that I
really?
probably do. Well, maybe like hinted at it, but I haven't done like any. We can talk about that. Let's finish this and we'll circle back to tapping.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I use those elements through the day. I use my understanding where I am in my cycle to weave into that and tie it very much into that masculine, feminine energy of, which have you talked about that on your podcast?
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
and masculine, feminine. I mean, you need one with it's like that ebb and flow, right?
Yes.
I did talk about cycles before and how men do, work on a 24-hour cycle,
Right.
and women kind of follow. I like to say like the phases of the moon. You
Yes.
have
Yep.
or like the seasons of the year kind of thing. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what I talk about. So. Spring, summer, winter, fall, kind of relate to and I suck at like the phases that you call like the
Right.
luteal phase. Like I don't know how to.
That'd be spring.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I talk about it in like the sense of like seasons because that
Yes.
makes sense to me. I can kind of relate to, if like you have a burst of energy, it's gonna be springtime, da 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 da, and then
Right.
winter would be kind of like the cuddle
Menstruation.
up
Like,
and
yes.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that's how it makes sense in my brain, like connecting it to like Mother Earth. But I
Yes.
do know that there's more of like a formal name for it, so I talk about it like in that aspect.
Yeah, which I think is brilliant because and that's what I love about all of this stuff is that there isn't the one size fits all. It's really understanding it within your own, how you conceptualize things and perceive things and understand things and applying it to yourself the way that it makes sense. Because I
Yeah.
think we do get stuck in like, well, that's how so-and-so does it. Why is that not working for me? Well, it's not working for you because you're not so-and-so. So you have to,
Yes.
make it yours.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and so like some of these things that you're saying, they make perfect sense to me. I've done them. I practice them to a degree. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not perfect. We're just here talking about things that we've learned, spitting them out and
Yeah,
sharing them with everybody else. But yeah,
exactly.
to
Mm-hmm.
me, when I do these things, I think of men as like the sun on like a 24-hour scale, right? The sun, it rises, it peaks, it goes to bed and start again the next day, right?
Yeah,
And
simple
then like
creatures.
women are like the moon
Mother
where,
Earth, really?
yes, no, seriously though, like that's how it makes sense to me. Like we have
Right.
this Mother Earth and she's teaching us these things and they're literally right under our noses.
Yeah.
We become so disconnected from what's right in front of us that then that again that creates anxiety and overwhelm and like what do I do? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, just close your eyes and see where you're at and what season you're in and what you need to be
Yeah.
doing in that season, and
Yeah.
it's okay, it will shift, it won't last forever. The only
Yeah.
thing constant in life is change, and
I know.
today's shitty, like go to bed
Tomorrow
and
might not be.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really about turning off the noise too. Like I think as women, we are constantly looking outward for
Yes.
validation or, like using the outside as our compass of like, what direction am I supposed to go? Am I doing okay? I actually had a friend, I have a couple friends who all of our kids are in the same class. And about once a week we hit a wall of like I suck. I can't do this. This is hard. And one of them hit that wall and she was like, because there was a Zoom link mess up and our kid missed the class and I'm trying so hard and this is so hard. And I told her, I said, I know you probably feel like you failed as a mom. She's like, I do. I can't try any harder than I am. And I still fucked up. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm like, so are we measuring ourselves based on if we had the right Zoom link for our child, or should we be measuring ourselves on what we have from the inside that we're giving to our children? And that's what we're doing with mothers. Like, we're constantly looking on the outside to try and measure up. And that's how I think we're becoming so disconnected with our insides and what our body is telling us, what our soul is needing, because we're just looking outside so much, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, on Pinterest, or, what our friend is doing, what our neighbor is doing. Like, we're just constantly looking outward. And I think if we just close our eyes, figuratively and literally, we will have our answers and we'll know that we're worthy and doing great.
Yes.
Even Zoom class, like still doing
yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And to me, it's going deeper than surface level, right? Because Zoom link, like in the grand scheme of things, is your child ever even going to remember that? Probably not. And it's the things that you do outside of that. Like, how are you supporting your kids? Are you being present with your kids? Or you feel like your intentions are there, that you're a good mom? I mean, you're not out there selling, I'm not even going to say like horrible things, but I was going to give some bad examples. I was like, no, I don't even want to put that out there. I know. But yeah, I think if we just look beyond the surface level and the grand scheme of things, like 90% of the time or majority of the time, you're a good mom just because you fuck up every now and then. I mean, we're all human. I fuck up all the time. Like, basically every day I do something that's fucked up, and I just kind of laugh it off now. I mean, some days, depending on what phase I'm in, I can get really down on myself, but I mean, I still do that comparisonitis. And in this last few weeks, I've been doing, and I think I told you about this, or I saw you do this, and somebody else recommended it to me too. They're like, Sasha, you just need to unplug some more. And I'm like, God, I know this. Why don't I just fucking do it? And so I've been trying to do little to no like social media on the weekends. And I find that I just, and I know today's Saturday and we're having this conversation, and I'm just going to have so much energy after this because I love having these conversations. But like shutting the phone off and just not looking at what everybody else is doing on the weekends, and really just focusing on what I want to do and what my family wants to do, and like being with each other and being outside and or just doing nothing. And I feel so good come Monday, because social media to me, I try to think of it as like, it's my job, right? I have to I have to show up, and if I'm not showing up, I would probably be fired, so you got to show up and do your work, treat yourself like you would any other employee. And so when I look at it that way, it helps me to just really focus on what it is that works for me and less of what everybody else is doing out in the world.
Exactly. I agree completely. Yeah. We're too caught up. Like, stop checking your emails at home, basically,
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to set app limits on my phone. Cause otherwise that's like the first thing that I wanted. I think my brain is still programmed to work. And so it's a very conscious effort on my part to shut that off.
Me too.
And the first thing that I want to do in the morning is check my email. Like, who emailed me? What do I need to do? And
it's sick. I know. You have to very intentionally be like, no, we're going to go meditate.
Yes.
We're going to go drink some lemon water, meditate and journal. You can check that phone after all that. It's hard. It is.
Yeah. So I set app limits, but,
Me too.
Okay. So let's we talked a little bit about the cycles. We talked a little bit about the Chinese elements. Let's talk about EFT tapping. I do this every now and then. And I think I learned about this like 2 or 3 years ago. And I found an app.
The Tapping Solution.
Yes. And that's what I follow. So tell me all that you know about tapping.
So what I know about tapping is that, and I think it's kind of picking up on popularity. So sometimes I'm not sure if I'm just like more into the world of what's always been there, or if it actually is becoming more popular. I can't always gauge.
I don't ever know that either.
Yeah, I don't know. So I ask my husband, I'm like, do you see EFT tapping everywhere or whatever it is to kind of gauge, like, is this my world or is it the world? I don't know. But what I have noticed is that I think that it is kind of picking up in popularity. I'm seeing it more and more. And something
Mm-hmm.
that I notice is that people will kind of go through a series of where to tap on their body and might not be doing it the right way or in the right
Yeah.
series. I don't know the effects of that though. Like I think it might be better than nothing, but I do believe that there's a full the way that you move through your body and tapping, that it's designed in that order and in that way for a reason. I just
Doesn't
don't
it
know.
go from the top down? And for those of you who don't know what EFT is, it's emotional freedom technique, right?
Yes,
Okay.
emotional freedom technique, and it's called tapping for short because you literally tap. So typically, the how it starts is the karate chop point. So the
Mm-hmm.
fleshy part of your hand on the outside, like below your pinky, is where you start tapping. So you use your other hand. There's no like this fast or this slow or this many times. You just tap. And how you start is basically anything that's going on in your life, like whether it's anxiety or depression or overwhelm or even just having a bad day. And then you can really expand on it and have fun with it, like doing EFT tapping for money blocks and bringing in, my husband and I are actually doing daily EFT tapping together for money because I'm losing all of mine with the wedding industry club.
Oh God, maybe, I mean, I don't know how comfortable you are talking about that, but maybe we
Oh
could
yeah, I'm totally open.
finish up with
Yeah.
money. I love talking about money and the energy of money and
Yeah,
things like that too.
I've learned to really enjoy money. I'm not like, so many people are freaking out and I'm just like over here tapping, like, we'll be fine.
I'm just
Don't worry.
tapping, tappy tap
It's
tap.
like, so typically how you start is on the fleshy part, you say whatever's going on. And like, even though such and such, I deeply love and accept myself. And what I don't usually do it without someone guiding me, because I want to take the guesswork out of what do I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
So the tapping solution is an amazing app. And then there's a guy called Brad Yates who has like, I don't know if it's an actual number. You can ask my kids because it's a constant question, but a gazillion videos.
I always say a shitload.
A shit ton.
Shit ton, yeah.
I know. It's like actual amount. So he's phenomenal and has like every single topic you can think of. So you start on that karate chop point, and then typically, so there are rounds, and usually it's a 3-round kind of thing that you can move through multiple times. But the first round is really getting into the feelings of saying things like, I'm so anxious. I suck because I'm so anxious. I can't even figure out how to be a mother because of this anxiety. No one loves me because I'm anxious. Like all those really shitty feelings that you have attached to this, whatever issue it is that you're tapping about, is you need to get into that to be able to rewire it. And then the second round is like that middle of like, maybe anxiety doesn't have to define who I am, and saying things like that. And then the final round is I am bigger than, it's like the basically like what you want to feel, like what you're trying to shift to. Like my anxiety doesn't rule me. I'm able to get rid of this. It doesn't define who I am, whatever. So you go from that fleshy point of your karate chop, and then you go to your brow, and then you go to on the side of your eye, under your eye, below your nose, above your lip, and then under your lip, like on your chin, and then you do your collarbone. It's usually about like 1 to 2 inches below your collarbone. And then you lift your arm and do it on the side on your ribs. And then you come up and do the crown. And that the crown is actually where you end. So meaning the top of your head. That's usually where you end a round. So that's where you'll end your last saying. So all of those points are tied to acupuncture and have been researched to study that there is an actual shift in your brain when you're tapping. Like you're legit rewiring your brain when you're doing it.
And
It's
it
pretty
makes
amazing.
me no, absolutely. And like when I first started doing it, it reminded me of a book I read. Well, actually I've read several times now. The Art of Letting Go,
Mm-hmm.
or Letting Go, something like that. David Hawkins. And basically what the concept is in order to move through an emotion or a feeling or a thought, is you have to first recognize it and
Exactly.
give it the space to like be there, and then you gradually work through it. So it's like you're on one side of the muck and you're like, oh fuck, this is really going to suck. I'm so shitty. I'm never going to get across this. Da, 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 da. And then you're like in it and you're like, okay, I'm in it. It's not as bad as I think it is. And then you like, you get to the other side and you're like, oh, wow. Like, look at me. I'm amazing.
It's like jumping into a cold pool and swimming across and getting out, you know, so standing there where you're like, this sucks. I just can't do this. Oh my God, it's going to be so, and then you jump in, you're like, all right, I jumped in. It's pretty cold, but I can do this. And you swim through.
Have you ever done Platza?
No.
Oh my God.
What is that? So I don't think I want to. By that laugh, I'm not interested.
You're going to have to go back and listen to my Plaza episode when I was in Detroit. Shit. Like, you seriously jump into a freezing cold ground pool water after being in a like 120-degree sauna. It is like, no. Oh my God, it was insane.
I know those like hot and cold really are good for your body. I can't do it.
I'm a hot person. I'm not a cold person. Like anything cold, like
anything extreme. I'm like my dog. Anything like below 70 or above 70, I'm like, oh, this is so hard.
You'll have to look up what a Plaza treatment is after this. But
I will.
Anyway, so tapping. So you started doing tapping. You and your husband are doing tapping.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you done it? Is it something that like you tell other people to do, or?
Yeah, I actually have it apart. I have my course, Create Your Best Life, and that's a part of it to teach. It's kind of, you know, the course is designed to give you like a bunch of different tools, and it's your tool bag. And sometimes you need a wrench, and sometimes you don't. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of those things.
Absolutely.
And you decide for yourself. Again, you have to tap into your own intuition and think, what do I need right now? And then you have that tool if you need it. But so I was taught EFT tapping about 4 years ago when I basically like when I crumbled, when I realized I had anxiety, it was actually funny. I started laughing. So I was sitting in the emergency room thinking I was dying. And then as the symptoms started to dissipate, I started laughing. I was like, oh my God, I'm certified. I have a master's degree in this shit. And I didn't realize I was just having a panic attack. But it became every day and it was really, really bad. And I connected with someone who actually was supporting my hormonal health because that was tied to what was going on. And she's the one who opened me up into Chakrity, understanding my chakras, and then EFT tapping. So it was probably about 4 years ago that she taught me what it was. And I would say I've really gotten into it in the past 2 years. So again, like she taught me this tool, like I just said, and there's so many things that you're kind of taking in, especially when you're in a space of I need to grow. But it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I've utilized it for a lot, and it's life-changing. I function so differently when I'm using it.
Yeah, I feel like I need to do it more often now that we're like talking about it, because it's kind of just it's not a daily or even like a weekly practice. It's just one of those things where I'm like, oh man, I haven't tapped in a while. Maybe that'll help me move through this.
Yeah. So. I think it's the first thing I forget to do, honestly. But it's the easiest thing to do. That's where it's funny. It's like, why haven't I? Like, why did I forget to do that? This could have helped, you know?
Yeah. And I know like when I first started doing it, it felt really weird, really unnatural to be like, cause you have to talk out loud, or at least I do. I think it says it recommends you to speak out loud, not just like in your head.
Right.
And so it was really weird for me to just like sit there and be like, okay, I'm doing the thing.
I deeply love and accept myself.
Yes. It was so, it was just so awkward and unnatural in the beginning, but now I'm just like, meh, fuck it.
Yeah. Oh, I know. You reach an age or a point where you're like, I just don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for those who are interested in EFT tapping, what was the YouTube guy again?
Brad Yates,
otherwise the Tapping Solution. The Tapping Solution is the one that I used to. And yeah, it's like totally weird in the beginning, but like you really feel better, like almost immediately.
You do. Yeah. They actually have you rate yourself on a scale. Like, how are you feeling about this from the beginning on a scale of 1 to 10? And then at the end to see how many points you dropped. And I always drop it's kind of weird, actually. It's a little like, whoa, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really cool. So sorry, I had to run inside quick and now I'm going back out. It's so nice out today. So let's talk about Chakrity. I know a little bit about the chakras and things to support them, but I don't know what Chakrity is.
Chakrity is amazing. It's really cool. So a lot of people do know what Reiki is. And if you don't, Reiki is, people are Reiki masters, meaning they've been attuned to level, I think that's level 3. I'm attuned to level 1 Reiki. But essentially it's almost like it's connecting into the Reiki, which is a source, and using that source of energy to heal other people with your hands. And you can give distance Reiki as well, and then really focusing on your chakras. So Chakrity was designed by a woman named Alexis. I can never pronounce her last name. It's Greek. It's Salutos or something like that. If you just Google Chakrity, you'll see her beautiful face. And she's certified in a bunch of stuff and has gone through so much energy work. And she's very much tied in with nutrition as well, and understanding nutrition energetically, which is really fascinating. So Chakrity is very much like Reiki. It's not apples and apples, but it was kind of, she created this. It's not like Reiki that's a million years old. And the way the source energy works is she has these gorgeous pendulums that she attunes to Chakrity. So when you sign up with her to be certified in Chakrity, so it has, I think 3 levels as well, maybe 4 levels now. That when you sign up to become certified, she mails you, she lives in Washington State, she mails you a pendulum that's specifically like it picked you. She put all of that beautiful energy into it. And then you use the pendulum to assess people's chakras or your own. You can do your animals. And I love it because for me, the pendulum is almost like a protection. Like I've had Reiki where I've felt a little funky after, and I feel like everybody's human, and when someone has their hands on me, even though they're, meaning the best and doing their best work, if they have something energetically going on in themselves, I don't trust that it's not going to be passed on to me. And I'm very empathic and feel like I can feel when you're upset. It's uncomfortable. I can feel everyone's feelings. I tell my husband, like, this quarantine's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, peace out, everybody. Like, I get some time to breathe. So I feel like I can kind of absorb some things through Reiki, but with Chakrity, for me, this is my personal opinion because I think Reiki is amazing and I still get it. But with Chakrity, the pendulum, I feel like is almost a source that blocks my energy from yours. Do you know what I mean? So it's very like its own source of energy, and the energy is being read through the pendulum. And what I love about Chakrity is it's using me. So like someone could do Chakrity on you, Sasha, and get this reading on your chakras, and I could do it 2 seconds later and get a different reading on your chakras, because Chakrity is using me to know that I'm the best person to bring this out for you, to talk to you about this. Do you know what I mean?
That. No, I absolutely love that. This stuff fascinates me. I love learning about this
like
stuff.
Magic. I love it.
I can't wait for you. I don't know if you do this yet, but if you don't, I need to do a Chakrity reading or session with you. Because you talked about this the other day and I was like, yes.
Yeah, it's so cool. So I use crystals that apply to each chakra. So like oh gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Do people still say that, brain fart? Is that a thing?
I do.
Okay.
I just say whatever.
So I have my crystals lined up and that signify each of your chakras. And then I hold the pendulum over the crystals to get a reading. So it just tells me if your energy is open, if it's expansive, if it's contracted, like blocked, or if it's chaotic. And one of the best examples of chaotic energy in your third eye, which is literally between your eyes, is have you ever had like the flashing lights behind your eyelids, or like crazy vivid dreams, or a headache, that kind of stuff? That can typically, headache's usually like a blocked third eye, but I get that chaotic third eye because I'm always thinking and I'm a creative. So I get like flashes behind my eyes, and that signifies chaotic energy behind your third eye. So
I probably have a lot of that then. I don't really get headaches. Like I hear people.
I don't get a lot
like,
either. Yeah.
No, usually if I have a headache, on the rare occasion, it's probably because I'm dehydrated.
Yes. Yeah. That's how I'm the same way. Like something's not like, if I grab Advil, which is never, my husband's like, oh God, are you okay?
What's happening?
I know.
Yeah.
I keep 911 close. Yeah. So it's amazing because it's just a beautiful source. What I shared that you referred to is I've when I do one-on-one coaching, like most people, we typically have like an open conversation, like what's going on, what's really prioritizing for you that you really want to talk about and work through. But in my coaching relationships, we usually have a close connection through Voxer support. So it's like, do we just continue that conversation? Do we need to talk about that? And I've loved using Chakrity to really kind of, like, I had a coaching call yesterday where it opened up a conversation where she was like, wow, I didn't even realize that this is something I needed to talk about. Because it shows, basically Chakrity is showing you what's prioritizing. Like, even if you might have 3 chakras contracted or chaotic, it brings out like what is prioritizing and why. Are you holding denial in this space? Are you holding frustration or shame, those kinds of things? And when you hear that, you're like, oh, dang. It's that jumping into the pool. It's like kind of Chakrity is behind you and pushing you into the pool. You're like
calling you out on your bullshit too, because there's a lot of times you try to like shove that stuff down and you think you forget about it.
And then someone else brings it up and you're like, oh man, okay, I guess I have to talk about this.
Fuck, I didn't want to talk about that, but I guess we have to.
Yeah. And then you swim through the pool and you feel better.
I love that. I'm going to have to set up a session with you and then podcast all about my experience. I love
I'd
these
love
things.
that. Yeah.
I've been doing more like psychic readings.
Yes.
And something that's always been on my to-do list is to become certified in Reiki. And actually it was on my 2020 to-do list, but with all the things closing, I don't know. I feel like it's something that I would need to do in person. I know that they have like online classes.
I recommend it. Yeah.
See, and that's kind of like, I feel called to do it in person and get like the full experience and be able to like practice on people like when you're there.
And then you connect with those people too.
Yes.
You create a bond. Yeah.
Nope, that's always been something that I want to do. Same with like yoga teacher training. And it's not necessarily that I want to be like a Reiki practitioner, like a yoga instructor, but like broadening, my knowledge and how I can show up and help others and really get a deeper understanding of like who I am, because you always learn something about yourself when you do those things.
Yeah. I was supposed to be certified in level 2 right when the shutdown happened. I'm like, dang, that's too bad. And I agree. Like, I don't know that I have interest in like, I don't want, and I never say never with anything. I've learned that myself. Like, I will not say that. I know. I said I'd never be a wedding photographer, but here I am. So I don't know that, like, I don't have the intention of like having it as a part of my business, but like you said, I think it's more to understand myself, to help heal myself, to heal my family, my home, and just have a better understanding of who I am. So you can never stop learning,
Yeah. And it's another tool in your tool belt to help your clients too, because there's times where I'm having conversations and I've learned about something, I've practiced something, and it becomes, second nature to me, but it's not necessarily something that I continuously teach on. Right. But when the time comes, you're like, I have the perfect tool for you.
Yep. It's that wrench that you didn't need. Now you do.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I love that. So, to start wrapping this up, I want to talk about money really quick. And then I want to talk about how people can get more of you. I feel like these conversations need to start being like 2 hours long. Because we're just like getting into the 2-parters.
I know.
Yes. So we're going to have to schedule another one. But yeah, let's talk about money and then how people can contact you.
Okay. What do you want to talk about money? Tell me.
Money in terms of how you have been impacted and how you're still calling in that abundance, and maybe how you're not, at least to me, you don't look like frazzled and freaking out. And I know there's a lot of people right now that are like, the world's coming to an end. And I just had somebody at my house earlier this week. And I have to always take a step back because I tend to feel bad that I'm still working and making money when there's so many out of a job. But I have to remind myself, like, the more I get, the more I can give. And it's that like abundance is that snowball effect. So when you start to feel gratitude for the abundance that you've called in, you can call in more and then give more, right? It's giving from a full cup versus an empty cup.
Exactly.
But yeah, the guy came out and he goes, half the world's out of work and the other half has never been busier. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that I'm on the latter end of that in terms of work. But just because you're out of work doesn't mean that it's like the end of the world.
Oh, I think it's such a blessing. My husband and I were just talking about it before we hopped on this call, that like things happen the way they're supposed to. I think for me, like, I've just created such a beautiful relationship with God, universe, like whatever you want to call it, that I have full trust. And because I have trust, I don't need to white knuckle the situation. I
Yeah.
know that I'm going to be taken care of. My husband still has his job. He's the primary income earner in the house. My state just came out with unemployment, and it's amazing because people, like in the unemployment forums, people are like, before they got it figured out, people are screaming like, I don't have my money yet. Why don't they have this figured out? And I'm like, wow, that's so negative. And like, I haven't been a part of the group. I'm like, it's just amazing that they're even offering this to small business owners. Like, this is unheard of. So let's just be patient. They're real human beings trying to figure this out.
Yep.
And then as soon as the money comes into the accounts, then everyone's complaining that I didn't get everything that I earned and that they owe me. And it's like, okay, that's such a lack mindset where, so you can kind of look at it as I'm not getting enough, or I just got a whole bunch of money that I wasn't supposed to get. How amazing is that?
Yeah. I hate when people say, and hate may be a strong word, but I'm very triggered when people say like, you owe me this.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. We don't need to go down the rabbit hole, but like, I chose my small business, and it's my responsibility to be able to take care of myself and be prepared when something happens that I might need to tap into my savings. So if you didn't do that for yourself, it's not our government's fault. I know that's where it's a rabbit hole. Like, I know the government shut us down and like, it's the government's fault, quote unquote, that you're not working, but like, it's part of the responsibility of anybody. You know, like that's why you have a savings account, that if a huge storm hits your house, you can't blame. I don't know. It's just,
no. This is going to be part 2.
Like,
I'm right there with you though. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So I just try and keep that abundant mindset of like, can I sit here and say I have no work, I have nothing to do? Or can I sit here and be like, I've just been gifted a shit ton, there you go, a shit ton of time to sit and really see my business from the back end. I've never, ever in the 7 years I've had a business been able to sit and look at it and take courses with this much time and this much time with my kids and my husband and my house. Holy crap. Like, that's so amazing. That is the abundance of it. And money comes. It never, ever, ever has money stopped coming to somebody ever. So it's just trusting.
It is a lot of trusting. And I find that I have quite the money story, and I've talked about this before and I won't get into it here, but I found when I focused on the lack and the bills and I would get anxious before I looked at my bank account, I would attract more lack. So all of a sudden I would get more bills about things that I didn't even know that I owed money on. And I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? Or I'd have a collection agency call me and be like, you owe us on this thing from 5 years ago. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, but it was those inner feelings. And this really, again, kind of tuning into like what your mind and your body is telling you. And when you start to feel those constricting, anxious, nervous, lack mindset, emotions, things like that, I mean, that's what you're going to call in. And so when you can sit there and start to, and this is where my gratitude practice really skyrocketed, because I'm like, I have got to rewire my brain to look at the positive in this.
Otherwise, I am so much better too.
Yes,
I feel great. I'm good.
Yeah. And when you can even do that in the morning, like when we were talking about, the different elements of the day, when you can really sit with that in the morning, you can kind of carry that gratitude throughout the day. It's really however you show up in that morning, which is again, why I try not to like check my emails and things like that. Cause otherwise I feel frazzled and hustle all day.
Right.
Versus
and then that
like,
just sits with you the whole day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's like the seed.
Yeah. And I'm very grateful, and I'm sure you are too, for all of the work that we've done prior to this pandemic, because it opens you up to really enjoy the time that you've been gifted. And not every day has been easy for me. I'm sure not every day has been easy for you.
Days. Yeah. But then I'm actually appreciative of the bad days too, because I come out on the other side like, whoa, I just learned so much about myself.
Yes, really exactly.
With all those feelings. Yeah.
All right. So I hate to end this, but how can people get a hold of you? How can they learn more?
One of the best ways to see me is on Instagram. So my handle is at Erin Joyce Co. Pretty much anything is Erin Joyce Co. So my website is erinjoyceco.com. My email is Erin@erinjoyceco.com. So you can see me there. I have that book coming out in September. So excited. And then if you want to work with me, you can go to my website and just click on the work with me section and check that out.
Love
And my
that.
podcast is called Same Boat Huddle.
Yes, I'm like, we didn't even
yeah.
talk about the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Everybody needs to go listen to the Same Boat Huddle and follow Erin on Instagram. She's always sharing things in her stories and like these ditch and switch things in her feed, like and her beautiful photography. I love looking at your photos. They just,
thank you.
There's like emotion to them when you look at them. I love that.
That's my goal. Yeah.
I just love it.
I
So
want to
thank
make you
you.
cry.
There's a few that you have, like your images of you in like black and white. I'm like, I feel this right now.
Oh, good.
So keep it up. I love it, and I will. I'll be lurking in the backgrounds, creeping on you.
Yeah,
like
me
I
too.
always do. So,
all right, that sounds good.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
I really, really loved this.
Yeah, I did too. Thanks, Sasha.